All right, I want to see what you've done. By the way, the question says you should do what? That's this is about chemical reactions.
Write down the number of elements in each of the chemical formulae below.
Okay, write down the number of elements in each of the chemical formula below. This is two elements, F and S, Fe and S. Do you know what Fe stands for?
Iron.
Beautiful. This is iron. And what does S stand for?
Sulfur.
Sulfur. Do you know what the name is?
Iron sulfate.
Iron sulfide. Good. You know, I told you something about IDE. You know, whenever you have IDE, it means two elements, right? Are involved. IDE means there will be two elements. So that I can write the name underneath each question. So you use IDE for two elements. Two elements we end in IDE. Sometimes when you have three elements, you might have something like ATE. If you have ATE, one of them must be oxygen. So ATE is usually three elements, which includes oxygen. For instance, are you ready? An example here could be like this one you mentioned. You said this one is iron oxide. So let's be writing the name underneath it. This is iron oxide. So iron sulfide, you said. Iron sulfide. There are three elements here. What does K stand for, by the way?
K?
Yes.
I don't know. Wait, 1 second, Mr. Joe.
Okay. Okay. Let me be putting arrows so that we can identify the names one after the other. No, please undo.
I need to add something.
Please undo. Just undo. Yeah. You can add whatever you need to add, but you need to undo. Okay, that's fine now. All right. So, are you ready now? Okay, you want to add the periodic table? Interesting. That's cool. Beautiful. Okay, so what does K stand for?
Potassium.
Potassium, yeah. K is potassium. Of course, O is oxygen, isn't it? And H is hydrogen, isn't it? Okay, so what do you think should be the name of this? With only OH, we call it hydroxide. So the answer should be what? The name should be what?
Potassium hydroxide.
Beautiful, potassium hydroxide. So this is potassium hydroxide. All right, so how about this? What does Na stand for?
Na. Sodium.
Sodium. You should be able to know the names without using the periodic table. What does Cl stand for?
I don't know. We haven't learned this yet. I mean, we have, but we haven't learned the names.
Okay, you should be able to identify each symbol. Anyway, Cl stands for chlorine. By the way, like you said, this one has 2 atoms, iron and sulfur, too, correct?
Oh! This one is 2.
This has 3 atoms, that's
No,
correct.
it has 2.
Okay, you want to correct that. Okay. So how many... What's the name of NaCl, by the way?
Sodium chloride.
Beautiful. Sodium chloride. All right. Can you write it underneath it? Okay. Can you check this again? This last one. How many atoms?
Three.
Okay, I thought you wrote 4 earlier.
Yeah, I just rubbed it.
You just corrected it now. Okay. All right. So it should be 3. Okay. All right. What's the name of HClO?
Pardon?
What is the name of HClO?
Hydrogen chloride of oxygen.
Anyway, that's beyond your scope.
Hydrochloride.
No, it's beyond your scope. I'll give you the name. There are 3: hydrogen, chlorine, and oxygen. This is called hydrochlorous acid. But don't bother about it. Okay. That's that about that. First of all, we can identify the names. We already know all the names. We know H stands for hydrogen and all that. And H stands for hydrogen, and O stands for oxygen. Cl stands for chlorine. Okay. You know, how many atoms do you have in this, for instance?
Pardon?
How many atoms do you have in this? What? Scroll down. I'm circling something. Scroll down. Excuse me. So how many atoms do you have in this? 3. Yes, 3, because you have 1 atom of carbon and 2 atoms of oxygen. Altogether 3 atoms. The subscript tells you the number of atoms in each element. How many elements do we have altogether? How many elements?
Pardon?
Yes, how many elements do I have in this?
3.
Are you sure? Element, I mean.
Oh, elements. 9.
Elements?
What are elements?
What you just answered here. Is it not what you answered here?
3.
Go up.
Answer the word.
All the stuff you answered here are elements. So I'm asking you the same question. For CO2, how many elements?
2.
Pardon?
2.
2. Okay, there are 2 elements. Which are what?
Calcium,
Carbon
carbon, and oxygen.
and oxygen. Actually, calcium is Ca. The one you were talking about is Ca, which stands for calcium. It's different, right? Calcium is Ca, so I'll write it differently. Ca stands for calcium. It's different. All right. So let's move on to. By the way, you said there are 2 elements, but 3 atoms. 2 elements and 3 atoms. 2 elements because elements are carbon and oxygen, so 2 elements. The 3 atoms because we have 2 atoms of oxygen and 1 atom of carbon. Okay, I think that makes sense. All right, you need this understanding to do the rest on the next page. But what's the name of this? CO2, what's the name?
CO2,
Yeah.
carbon dioxide.
Okay, so 2 elements and 3 atoms in carbon dioxide. All right, let's go to the next page and complete this work. Can zoom in to see it better. Some have been done for you already, like this one have been done. So complete the table to show the number of elements and number of atoms in each compound. Okay, so ozone has 1 element, which is oxygen, and 3 atoms of oxygen. That's correct. Zinc sulfide. Would you have gotten the name of this thing correctly? I believe, because I told you. Yeah, I believe because I told you that when you have 2 elements, it usually ends with IDE. So it would have been zinc sulfide, which is exactly what you have here. If you check, all those ones with 2 elements always end in IDE, apart from these other ones that are what we call hydrocarbons, but that's beyond your scope. So 2 elements, zinc and sulfur, and 2 atoms. Okay, that's correct. Okay, for barium iodide, you have barium and iodine, which is 2 atoms, but there are 2 atoms of 2 elements actually, 2 elements and 3 atoms. That's correct. Two elements, sodium and nitrogen. There are 3 atoms of sodium, so let me zoom it in properly so that we can see it better. there are 3 atoms of sodium and 1 atom of nitrogen, so altogether 4. That's correct. Two elements, carbon and hydrogen, and 14 atoms altogether, correct. Now this, see what I was talking to you about the...
Pardon?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. This one now. Okay, that's correct. For nickel sulfate, you have 3 elements: nickel, sulfur, and oxygen, and 6 atoms. Lithium hydroxide, you have lithium, oxygen, hydrogen, 3 elements, 3 atoms. Silver carbonate, this is actually silver 1 carbonate. When you get to higher classes, that's what we call that. So how many elements, how many atoms? Two for silver, 1 for carbon, that's 3, and then 3 for oxygen, that's 6, correct. So 3 elements, 6 atoms. Potassium nitrite, that's correct. Excuse me, glucose.
1, 2, 3, top. 3. Oh, actually, let's top. No.
Okay. 3
Oh,
3
it's
elements.
just top plus 12.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was 3.
So glucose has how many atoms? 3 atoms, 24 elements. That's correct. 3 elements, 24 atoms. Are you sure? Are you sure for boric acid?
Oh,
3 elements: hydrogen, boron, and oxygen. But how many atoms?
7.
7 atoms. Correct. Ammonium nitrite. Nitrite. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1. Are you sure? Are you sure there are 4 elements? Are you sure there are 4 elements?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Where did you get the 5? The 5th one?
Oh, I'm sorry, so I'm looking at the wrong one. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there are 4 elements.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Check again. What are the elements?
N, H, N, O.
Why are you naming N twice? They are just. The question is how many elements? What does N stand for?
Oh.
Yes. You need to be careful. That's a trick. You shouldn't fall for it. What does N stand for, by the way? N stands for nitrogen, of course. So you have nitrogen, you have hydrogen, and then oxygen, because there are two nitrogen atoms. So altogether, three elements: nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen. You don't name the elements twice if you're naming elements. But how many atoms? 1, 2, that's correct, 8 atoms. Finally, this one, 5 elements: carbon, hydrogen, bromine, oxygen, sulfur. 62, that's large. 28 plus 27, that's 55 plus 7. Are you sure?
Yeah.
55 plus 7. Okay, plus 7, that's 55 plus 7 plus 55 plus 8. It looks like 63.
55 plus 7 equals 62.
Then plus 1. You forgot the one for sulfur.
Oh.
You have to be careful for stuff like this, okay? So plus the one for sulfur, that gives 63. I think that's it. Okay, we have all now. Alright. You also did balancing of equations in the previous
Mr.
work.
Joe, 1 second.
Okay.